They say that class action lawsuits can be healing, that they can bring resolution or even closure to groups of people that have been wronged. Perhaps they've had crimes committed against them. I do pray that that's the case, that we do get healing as well as resolution and closure for the people in one particular class action lawsuit that's going to be filed on January 20th. Yes, on Inauguration Day. The target of this lawsuit will be the Department of Justice. The plaintiffs in this lawsuit will be over 100 January 6 political prisoners, and they're shooting for a whole lot of money. According to an article over at the Gateway Pundit, January 6 political prisoners launch historic $50 billion class action lawsuit against the Department of Justice. In a groundbreaking legal battle, over 100 January 6 political prisoners have come together to file what is being hailed as the largest lawsuit ever against the Department of Justice. Officially named the January 6 Restitution and Wrongful Incarceration lawsuit, this $50 billion class action is spearheaded by Jake Lang, a January 6 prisoner who has been incarcerated for nearly 4 years. Lang, through his new organization, federal Watchdog, the Anti-Lawfare Group, is joined by an esteemed team of conservative attorneys, including Steven Metcalf, Anthony Sabatini, Stephanie Lambert, and Jonathan Gross. Together, they aim to expose the injustices faced by January 6 prisoners and secure much-needed restitution. Now, some may say, $50 billion, it's an awful lot of money for not really a ton of people. But here's the thing. These people are truly, legitimately victims. They were targeted, not because of anything that they did, but because of who they supported, and perhaps more importantly, because of what they represented as protesters during the January 6 rallies in Washington, D.C. back in 2021. They represented a threat to government, a threat that is not based on terrorism or any real crimes. The threat that they posed was based around the idea that free people can protest, can stand up and say, this is wrong. The election was stolen. The rightful president of the United States is being forced out of office. And we want Congress to act. That was the message from January 6th. But that message, of course, was perverted. First by the deep state that engaged in shenanigans that led to what is being called riots, or some say insurrection. Then they were attacked. Our republic was attacked by many politicians, including Republicans. Many Republicans were involved in this. This wasn't just a Democrat thing. The uniparty swamp wanted Donald Trump to be removed completely and totally from the public eye. They wanted lessons learned by anybody who would continue to support him. And so they engaged in pushing this further. And then, of course, we have the corporate media who, to this day, are still acting against the January 6th protesters. This is worse than just your standard lawfare. This was a concerted effort, a true conspiracy to take down those who would fight for this nation. People who believed in their hearts, and rightly so, that the 2020 election was fraudulent. How in the world could a man who barely campaigned, who couldn't form a cohesive thought, how could he have gotten 81 million votes? There's still many of us who question the results of the 2020 election, including President Trump, and including pretty much everybody who was incarcerated as a result of becoming January 6 political prisoners. We still know what we know. We understand that the case was never adjudicated. But, as I've said many times, God's will be done, and God's will was not for President Trump to continue on in 2021. It was, I guess, ordained. Is the best way to put it. The hand of God reached down and said, no. I know that you guys want President Trump to win, but America needs him in 2025 through 2029. Not so much now. Now, you might say, but Joe Biden has been horrible. Kamala Harris has been horrible. We've had to suffer through so much. Imagine if we did have a second Trump term in 2021. Imagine if he just continued with his government, a government that included Mike Pence, Bill Barr, a whole lot of bad people. He never would have learned his lesson. He never would have gained the support of millions of Americans who previously had not supported him. It was because the election was stolen from him, and then because of the dishonesty of corporate media, the dishonesty of the uniparty swamp, and yes, the shenanigans of the deep state, that we as a nation realized we need Trump. We need Trump back in the Oval Office. God wanted this to happen, and now it has happened. So I pray that God wants this to happen as well, that the January 6th political prisoners are redeemed, that they're made whole as best as they can be. None of them can be made completely whole. They've suffered through psychological damage. They've had their names tarnished, their businesses, their jobs, their careers, their families torn apart. Many of them have committed suicide as a result. So no, $50 billion is not going to be enough to make these people whole. But it will send a message. It will say that yes, common sense and freedom still exist in the United States of America, because common sense tells us that the entire January 6th shenanigans, as portrayed by corporate media and the uniparty swamp, that it was all a farce, and somebody's got to pay for it.